All right, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to our Friday speaker series for this week. It is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Taylor Campbell. She is both a student and a research assistant at the University of Pittsburgh. Her research is focusing on traumatic brain injuries and cardiac arrest. She is a graduate of the University of Pittsburgh with a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience, Chemistry, Administration of Justice, and African Studies. So clearly she is a slacker with 4 concentrations. And I believe that she wants to go into neurosurgery as far as our neurobiology, neurology, and possibly neurosurgery, as we talked about last time. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Taylor. Take it away.
Well, I didn't graduate yet. I have a couple more months, but
That's right.
just
very close.
Very close, but you know, there's always anything could happen. But I'll share my screen. All right, I didn't really know what to title this, so it doesn't really matter what the title is. But as you said, I'm Taylor. I'm a senior at Pitt, so I graduate in the spring. And I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about myself, kind of my path from high school to college, how I got there, the ups and downs, all that type of thing. So yeah, I'll get right into it. And if you guys have any questions, just hold them to the end because I definitely want to answer them, but I get sidetracked very easily. Okay, so just a little bit of background about me and like high school me. I am from, actually it's Shermansdale, PA. Nobody ever knows where that is. So it's in Perry County, if you guys happen to know the counties. But if not, you can just say it's outside of Harrisburg, like 20 minutes. My dad's house is like 5 minutes. So technically right in the mix of it all. I was raised by just like my mom and grandma. I lived with them throughout my high school and all that. And I graduated from a place called West Perry Senior High in 2017. It's in the middle of nowhere. My school was known, like people would make jokes that we rode tractors to school. We didn't, but not far from it, honestly. I played field hockey and basketball. I was in NHS. Oh, ignore those, not there yet. I was in NHS and student council, and I applied to college as a pre-med student. One thing I want to preface is that I know this is not the case for a lot of people, and it's not the case for most people, and even some people change their mind. But for me, I always knew what I wanted to do, like ever since I was probably 3 years old. So throughout my entire life, I've just been preparing to become a doctor. I think it kind of started back when I was 3, and I remember meeting my dad. Of course, I met him when I was born, but like the date that I remember, the first thing him and my stepmom to be gave me was a doctor's kit. And then after that, I kind of always wanted to be a doctor. Plus, I watched Grey's Anatomy at a really young age. So it really had an influence on me, I guess you could say. I put my GPA because my high school GPA, like, it mattered a lot to me. And I would say I worked hard for it. I was what you would call a try-hard in high school. I tried really hard at all my classes, including gym. Like the mile, I wanted to get the best time on, all that. So yeah. But you can see how that can all dwindle away shortly. So just to give you a little idea of what I looked like in high school, that's me playing basketball and field hockey. A lot of people outside of Pennsylvania have never heard of field hockey before, and it was my absolute favorite sport. Wish I was still doing it, but yeah, some action shots for you, as you can see. So why I chose the University of Pittsburgh. While I always knew what I wanted to do, I definitely did not pick the University of Pittsburgh because it was my first choice and something that I had always wanted to do. I only became familiar with it because I went to a pre-health academy thing at the University of Pittsburgh, which I got a scholarship for. And that's the first time I'd even been to Pittsburgh. That was about my junior year of high school, the summer of, but I still, even though I went to that program, I still wasn't like, oh, this school's kind of cool, I want to go there. But my dream school actually was Columbia University. I had loved New York City. I always wanted to live there. I still want to live there. And I also like the idea of going to an Ivy League school. As I said, I was a tryhard in high school. So an Ivy League and New York, this just seemed perfect. I actually had never heard of it before high school, probably 10th grade. And I only became familiar because Barack Obama went there. And also, I don't know if any of you guys have watched it, but there's a show Gossip Girl, and the character, I think his Nate Archibald, I think that's his name, he went there. And I was all about that too. Like while he was walking around, I was looking at the campus, assuming that he was actually there. So, but I also did my research on it and I really liked everything about it too. So they had an 8-part application, which I had never heard of before. Most colleges just have your prerequisite, or not prerequisite, sorry. You have your transcript you send, your letters of recommendation, an essay, and just like a list of activities you do and everything. I could not tell you till this day what all 8 parts entail. And they also required a high SAT and ACT score, which I had taken the SAT pretty early on, I think my sophomore year of high school. And it was good. It was out of 2,400 when I took it. And I believe it was like a 19 something, like it was good, but it wasn't Ivy League good. So I had pretty much been preparing myself to take the ACT, which, as I talk about in this presentation, I talk about a lot of my failures, and I didn't fail the ACT, but I had been preparing and studying like with tutoring outside of school and everything. And the test day came and I didn't wake up in time. It was at a school I was unfamiliar with. My mom didn't wake me up. I woke up at like 7:50. The exam started at 8, and I raced there, got there, and I couldn't find the right door that was unlocked. Like I was there on time, I couldn't find the right door. And then I got there and the guy was like so rude to me. I just bust out crying. It was a whole episode. But yeah, I ended up retaking it. I only got a 27. They wanted like a 31. I guess I could have still applied had I not had all these health issues that came with my senior year. So this is kind of funny to me now, and everybody was making fun of me in the moment, but I didn't find it funny when I had this. It's this rare condition called torticollis. Basically, I woke up one day and my neck was like turned to the side, kind of like the guy in that picture. They say it can come from sleeping weird. I don't know. I called the ambulance. My grandma was freaking out. I couldn't move. And I was like this for like 2 weeks straight. I couldn't really go to school or anything. So I fell significantly behind. Luckily, I had made it to the end of field hockey season, but I was just playing catch up for that whole month. My teachers were pretty understanding and everything, but it was really taking a toll on me and my mental health. But I finally, got through the torticollis. I'd say like a month later, I finally was getting back to school and everything like that, catching up. And then I had a car accident. This was my car. I think it was probably the same week that I had been going back from my torticollis. And this happened. It was my first car. I'm on car number 3 now. So I didn't have any more accidents. I just have mechanical issues. But I was on my way to school and it was raining, and they always say the first 15 minutes is the most dangerous. And I just slipped off, and luckily I hit a tree because behind it is the creek, or as they call it where I'm from, the crick. And I could have went into that. Nothing happened to me. My neck was worse, but I was okay, luckily. Just my car was not. And I was really depressed after this. So at this point, I was like depressed. I was failing classes. I'd been able to pull myself up except for calculus, which to this day I still can't do that well. I had to take it again, but and I became ineligible for my senior basketball season, which I just felt defeated. I mean, everybody was trying to work with me because I had been such this good student. I'd tried hard on everything, and it kind of all came crashing down. I used to go into the nurse's office and just be like, oh, my neck hurts, because I wanted to go home. And then at one point my dad called, like, because I had missed 23 days of school my senior year, and my nurse called, and my dad called me and told me to stop feeling sorry for myself. I should also say my dad has a very bad interpretation of mental health. Most, I would say, like, most Black men in the generation above us do. But yeah, he wasn't buying it. He wasn't with it. He basically told me I needed to pick myself up and get over it. So that 8-part application to Columbia just wasn't going to happen for me. I could barely finish all my schoolwork. I needed to graduate. So I knew I had gone to that program at Pitt, and I thought it would be easy to get into. And also the class above me, the valedictorian, went to Pitt. So it's a good school, especially for pre-med students. So I applied there, and I also applied to Penn State. I want to make this clear. I did not want to go to Penn State at all. My mom went to Penn State, and my goal in this was to get far away. So I wanted to go somewhere where she wouldn't pop up all the time. And I'm also, I just don't like it there. I feel like it's a cult. Nothing wrong with Penn State. If you went there, it's great. My cousin goes there, my family goes there, but like, I go to Pitt now, so that's how I feel about it. I got accepted to both, but obviously I ended up going to the University of Pittsburgh. I got a full ride to Pittsburgh, and Penn State just wasn't giving me enough money. But I mean, they were giving me a lot, and I could have probably gotten the rest with financial aid, but ultimately that was stuff I would have to pay back. At Pitt, I didn't. But one thing I want to say, when you're applying to colleges, this is something that I did not let me hold me back. Never think about the money it's going to take to apply. And if I know money can kind of stress you out, and if you're going to be able to afford it, but there's always a way. Like, if you're determined, there's always financial assistance and methods to get you into school and to get you to stay there. Trust me, I have done them all, so I know. So yeah, at the end of the day, I graduated high school with my 4.03 GPA, top 10%. So if you try hard throughout all of high school, you can just completely fail the senior year. No, that is not my advice, but it kind of ended up happening. I didn't fail my classes. My teachers kind of gave me a break and just let me turn in my work when I could. So I did turn it in. But yeah, then I ended up going off to the University of Pittsburgh. I was really excited. I wasn't at all disappointed when I had decided to go to Pitt instead of Columbia. And the more time I spent here, the more I realized, like, Columbia wouldn't have even been a good fit for me. Just based off of struggles I've had while I was here. But this is me, freshman year. It was a great time. It was probably the best time. I was a social butterfly. I went to every football game. I probably never missed a party, which ended me up on academic probation. I just feel like throughout high school, I had never had less than a B. So it wasn't fathomable to me that I could fail a class. And I just figured, I'll study, in high school, I always studied for my exams. I wasn't somebody that could just get by listening or paying attention or just winging it. I had to study. And I promise you, I did study in college my freshman year, but I was doing the same amount of studying I had done in high school. Like, you study the day before the exam and you think you're prepared, and you're absolutely not. It just does not fly. I would say my biggest disappointment was that high school did not prepare me whatsoever for college. And I think I had to recover from this first semester freshman year for the rest of my college experience. Like, I'm still recovering from it today. So But I got it together. I had to kind of, luckily my parents, they weren't angry. I kind of didn't tell them I wasn't on academic probation, but they asked me my grades and I was like, they're not good. So I just kind of had to pull myself back down to earth, remember why I'm there. Luckily, you have the opportunity to retake classes. I basically had to retake that whole semester. All my pre-med classes, which are the ones I was struggling with, I had to retake. So that was like Bio 1 and Gen Chem 1. I had decided to go to school as a neuroscience major on the pre-med track. And I think it was also important for me after this fall semester to get involved and kind of ground myself with commitments, which, excuse me, I think the idle mind is the devil's playground. That's what they always say. And that is definitely the case with college. And in college, you're completely responsible for anything that you're doing. Like, nobody's going to make you study. Nobody's going to pressure you to turn in an assignment. Nobody's going to cut you a break. You have to get this done for yourself and by yourself. So one thing in high school that always kept me moving was a schedule. Like, I had school 7 to 3, sports 3 to 6, and then I came home 8, did my homework, showered, and went to sleep or watched a show or something. So I had to get myself into my own schedule. And I also had to work my way through college. It's just the way it is for some of us. Some people get to completely focus on college, but others have to learn how to balance that out. And I wish I didn't, but also the work that I do gives me, like, you can definitely find a job, especially here in Pittsburgh, but overall in college towns, you're able to find a job that complements what you want to do and gives you experience that will be beneficial to you. So another thing I would say for college is you have the opportunity to try everything. While I'll say I knew what I wanted to do, I knew what my end goal was going to be, I didn't know all the in-betweens. I had no idea what I wanted to minor in when I came to college, as you can see on this list. At first, I thought I was going to be a Spanish minor, and I had taken Spanish all throughout high school. I got to college and it was not going to happen. I just didn't care. Spanish was the only class you had every single day of the week, and I just wasn't with it. I also didn't have my glasses for the first semester of college. I had visited my sister and left them there, and I just was blind, and you needed them for Spanish class specifically. So that wasn't going to work. There was a point in time when I took my music gen ed that I really enjoyed it, and I thought I was going to be a music minor, and then I changed my mind again, and I finally decided on administration of justice minor, because it kind of goes into the fact that while I'm a neuroscience major, I really care about the brain a lot and studying behavioral elements of the brain. I'm also really into the whole criminal side of all of that. I guess criminal neurology or something. It's kind of like a made up category that they don't have that much research for, but my goal is to do research and see if people are predisposed for violent behavior, specifically people in disadvantaged communities that may have seen traumatic events growing up, to see if that had impacted them and kind of changed the way their brain functions, and in the end would make them be a more violent offender as well. So that's kind of how that came together, and it just made sense for me. But I also, I did neuroscience research, as was mentioned in the beginning. I do research for traumatic brain injury and cardiac arrest. That's what I do right now. I work with rats in a lab, and they get surgery on them, and I do motor and behavioral testing on them. So that's something that I stumbled upon. And as a pre-med student, you have to do research before you go to med school. So I was lucky enough to find research that I really am passionate and interested in. I also joined Black Action Society, which I will talk about a little bit later. Field hockey club, which is also a plus and a minus. There's club field hockey where you play competitively. I tried out for that team. I didn't make it, which was sad because I was trying to hold on to it. But then I ended up just joining this rec team, I guess. You can play when you want. It's not competitive. It's okay. I didn't go that much, but it's fun if I need to like blow off steam or anything. I did a fashion show for the African Student Organization, which, you know, ended up becoming a big interest of mine later on. And I also questioned whether or not I should start my own organization. So there's just like a lot of things to try in college. Go to the activity fairs in the beginning. It's definitely important. And I feel like if you don't have any of these student organizations or clubs outside of just your classes, you're not making the most of your college experience. I still feel like I didn't make the most. I feel like there's so many other things I found out Pitt has that I didn't even know about. So definitely try to utilize all you can. And after all, you pay for it. So one thing I want to touch upon is being Black at a predominantly white institution or a PWI. I think this can be a challenge. It can be a huge challenge for some students, while others find their footing or aren't bothered by it a ton. I think definitely for those students who it does impact, finding a Black student union such as Black Action Society that I was a part of is really important, and it kind of becomes a family, and it kind of becomes your like soundboard. Anytime you have a problem, they're always there to listen, and not only listen, but to change it and do something about it. And again, I still will talk about Black Action Society more. Another thing about being Black at a PWI is there's a lot of polarization. And for me, I'm Black and white. So it was a lot of picking sides. And I had gone to a predominantly white high school. So that's what I had known. But then I kind of know my beliefs and what I stand for, and it does not go with that side when I'm at a PWI oftentimes. So yeah, that was a thing for me in college, coming here and trying to actively decide who I was going to hang out with, what group of people, because yes, while you're in classes, and I will say like the whole academic element can be integrated, but whenever the social element, I guess, is completely polarized. You know, you go to parties, there's either a Black party or a white party. And for me, that was a big thing that I had to deal with. And it kind of came down to like deciding who I was in a way. And you can't even just go in the middle. It was more so, oh, who will I be this weekend? Who will I hang out with this weekend? But you're also forced to, and this is something we learned a lot this year, we're forced to advocate and educate the entire institution completely for free. Like the things that we're doing for Pitt, for example, as Black Action Society, I feel like we should be compensated for it, honestly. Other people, if you hire an adult to do the things we have done, they would be paid for it. But they basically rely on our input entirely. Like anytime there was a person that was hired or a new program initiated this year specifically, they had one of us sit on the panel or the committee and ask, which it's great to be part of the conversation and be in the room because they're aware of the fact that they need help on these issues. But it's a lot to put on a student, especially a Black student who has enough obstacles in their path as it is, to put on their shoulders the entire school, that you have to like help it not be racist and be equal to all. So that's one thing. And another funny thing is Black student photo ops. They love to catch you on campus to put on one of those brochures. That is a real thing. They do that. They don't do it to me, but they do it to a lot of my friends all the time. And then one day it'll just pop up as a banner somewhere and you're on the photo again for free. But I will say, and what all my friends say at NBAS, we love our PWI. At the end of the day, we still love that we got got the opportunity to go to Pitt, and we love it there. We found our niche, as you'll say, but there's definitely challenges that come with it. As if you went to a HBCU, of course, there would be challenges that came with that. But I feel like at the end of the day, the benefits outweigh the cons, the pros outweigh the cons, but it's definitely something to be considered. So, as I've mentioned a few times, Black Action Society, just to give you guys a little heads up of what it is, it was started in January 15th of 1969. And if you're familiar with the Cathedral of Learning, they came about this idea to seize the cathedral computer room until certain demands were met. And this was an idea between the students of the University of Pittsburgh, as well as community members and advocates in the Hill District. And they basically did just that. They sat in the computer room until the school agreed to implement African studies courses, things such as that. And I mean, that's how BAS came about. And we've kind of been trying to stay true to that since then. I end up being the social action co-chair. This is my second year doing it. My job is to react to current events. So as you can probably guess, I've had a busy semester. But we do this by, in this picture here, it was basically a just an art piece we came about to kind of depict whether or not we wanted Pitt to recognize hate speech. We did a lot towards hate speech last spring it was, because there was a point where people were writing slurs in the dorms, and I think the residence halls have it the worst when it comes to it. I was lucky enough to not directly experience it. I've definitely heard some things. I've been like around the corner, but nothing directly towards me. But the residence halls definitely had a problem with hate speech, and Pitt did not have a hate speech policy. So that's something we were advocating for. We also did a sit-in, which is basically everybody sat at this place on campus whenever the Antoine Rose shooting, the trial for that was going on. So we did that. We do protests, things like that. My part of the organization is also in charge of community outreach. So like volunteering, as well as the mentorship program that we run with Shenley Heights, just mentoring youth in the community and things such as that. So BAS is definitely a huge part of my college career. It's where the majority of my friends are from. I definitely have a lot of friends outside of it as well, but it's just like you can let off all your steam, and it's a place like for family, you know how you have your best friends, but you can still talk about them to your family. Like that's kind of how it is. Creators Collective is also a huge part of it, because this is the organization that I decided to create, just like me, myself, and I, which Pitt also really easily kind of allows you to do. There's some protocols you have to go through, of course, but it was much easier to do than the idea I had in high school was to come about, sort of. So I'm the founder and president of it currently, and it's just an organization meant to kind of harness creative abilities and send a bigger message. So this could be like social, political, cultural, but just send it kind of in a more creative and artistic way and bring awareness to this. And also in college, it's really hard to find time. While you have free time, it's just not well utilized, I would say. It's hard to find a time for, if you find yourself being a creative person, to actually take part in this creativity. So if you like writing, to find time to actually write is hard in college. So that was what I wanted to do with this org, kind of give people a space. So as I discussed, coming back from failures, I've had a lot of them, especially in college, but in college, you learn to take your failures and cry about it and get back up within 20 minutes. Like, okay, cry about it. You have 10 minutes till your next exam. So my lowest college exam score was a 20%. So I've come back from that, I will say. I've had struggles with money problems a lot. As I said, like the cost of college is manageable with financial aid. I managed to come to that, but just like the reason why I feel as if I wouldn't be comfortable in Columbia compared to Pittsburgh is because of the cost of living. While I can afford to go to school, sometimes I've had to say no when my friends want to go out every day of the weekend, twice a day to eat out. So I definitely had to deal with that. It was a huge stress on me sophomore year. And being on academic probation, you lose your scholarship. So I had to come up with 10 grand for that semester. Luckily, I got it in financial aid from the federal loans and everything, but it was just complete stress. And I figured it out. You will always figure it out at the end of the day, but it's something not a lot of students have to deal with. Not all students can relate to that. I also had health issues. My lovely torticollis comes back to bite me now and again when I get super stressed, but not as severe. So I've had to deal with that. I was fired from a job, which was like a shock to me because I thought I was great at it. But it was funny because it also contributed to my money problems. But here I was making $10 an hour at this job, giving my heart and soul to it. I was on call and everything. And then I ended up getting another job where I make $17 an hour. So it all worked out for the best. Much less work, don't have to be on call. So, and of course, a low GPA is what I have had to recover from throughout this whole thing. But there are ways to come back from that. Even for me as a pre-med student, a low GPA can be a death sentence for med school, but they have other programs that you can take even after college to recover from that. And one thing I want to say that somebody told me is not everyone is offered the opportunity to fail. Once you get to college and your foot is in the door, if you fail, like you've had the opportunity to be here, you have the chance to pick yourself back up and keep going. So I say, as long as you keep going, which I have experienced, it's very hard at times, but as long as you keep going, it's going to be okay. I still have to tell myself that. I'll probably have to tell myself that next month, but just remember that. So some fun things. I got to do trauma research. This was actually a job I got fired from, fun fact, but it was a really fun job. I was basically in charge of a ton of research studies. So these trauma surgeons would have a research study and there'd be like 8 million qualifications for, and a trauma, level 1 or level 2 trauma would come into the Presbyterian Hospital here in Oakland. And I would be in charge of seeing if this person qualified. And it's not just one trauma with 50 qualifications, it's like 10 different studies. So I'm like there with all my folders, looking at their blood stats, talking to EMS crew, seeing what drugs this person is on, if they're on aspirin, all that type of stuff. So it was an incredibly fun job. Some of the studies you even got to go up to the operating room for. I would say I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like why was I in the operating room? And I think the surgeons always wondered it too, but it was so fun. I wouldn't trade it for the world. They weren't paying enough though, I will say that. So if you have the chance to take a job that they're not paying enough, but it's a good opportunity, I would recommend it if you don't need the money. That's just me. Or like take it with 4 hours a week or something. I already talked about my cardiac arrest and traumatic brain injury research. I actually ended up winning an award for that this past fall. I wrote an abstract and got to present upon it, but that was like a big accomplishment for me because with research, you're kind of just doing a lot of grunt work day in and day out, and you don't know if it's going noticed or not. So it was good to be noticed for once. Patient care technician at UPMC Mercy. This is just a regular job. Anybody can get it, but it is another great experience for somebody in the pre-med field. I work directly with patients. I see their charts. I tend to them, care to them. The other night, I actually had to perform CPR and help try to resuscitate a man. He unfortunately didn't make it, but CPR is no joke. Like you take these classes and it's whatever, but actually having to do it.
Oh man.
What?
Was it a real man?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was bittersweet. Like I was super excited to be there and doing it. But again, this man was losing his life. But I'm still sore from doing it. Like I can't laugh or anything. My abs hurt so bad. Also, building this relationship with the Hill District has also been something really important to me. I found such a passion for community service throughout college. Working in the mentorship program, meeting all these kids at Shenley Heights, like that's something I didn't know that I cared so much about, but it's something I find hard to let go of. I mean, at times it's kind of hard to balance everything, but it's just like a part of me now that I have to continue. I also got the opportunity to go on a medical brigade to Ethiopia. So we worked in a clinic there, treated patients from this village called Kora, which is historically known as a leper colony, and they were outcasts throughout the city of Addis Ababa, which is the capital of Ethiopia. But they basically lived in the trash dumps, like their houses were within it. They built that, and like it would basically be airplane trash. They survived off of airplane food that they dropped. And it was definitely an experience that I'm glad to have had. It was rough at times, but like funny. There was funny parts, of course. I don't know. It was just great. I'd love to go back at some point. I also mentioned how I did that fashion show for a student organization, and I also from that developed a passion for modeling. I signed with an agency here in Pittsburgh. It's nothing crazy or anything. I wouldn't say I'm like Naomi Campbell yet, but it's definitely another nice way. It's like a fun job to have, you know? I don't have to put too much work into it. If they call me, they call me. Fun fact, if you go into like CVS, Walmart, Target, and look at the Splat hair dyes, I'm on a box. So yeah, that was fun. I never expected that to happen from college. But my biggest takeaways would be that, again, high school does not prepare you for the difficulty of college whatsoever. So just prepare for a shock, because it definitely was. And I would say you will be okay if you over prepare yourself. Like if you have an exam, over prepare for it, because I wish I could. If I could go back to freshman year again, I would do it in a heartbeat. So study like it's a 9 to 5. I'm not saying that you have to not go and enjoy your weekends. There's a way that if you study throughout the whole week, like it's a 9 to 5, that you can still enjoy your weekends. That's what I do now, and I'm doing great. So life just isn't fair sometimes. As I said, some of us have to work and balance school while others just get to focus on it. There's going to be things that happen, like my car broke down and I needed a car. Like once you bring a car to Pittsburgh, you can't go without it. Like I was fine without it, probably using the bus and everything, but once I had it and I lost it, I just needed it back. So that was other money that I was stressing to come up with, especially to get to and from work. One thing I had to tell myself is there's always going to be another party. You don't have to show up to every single one in college. You're not going to miss anything. Sure, people are going to be like, oh, it's a great time. Remember this, remember that. You can remember next weekend. Like there's always going to be another one. Make sure to put yourself out there, meet new people. Don't be shy if you can help it. I met one of my best friends because I tried to, there's a portal to find roommates like on Facebook, and I messaged her. She never messaged me back, but I saw her at Antoon's Pizza this one night I was out, and I was like, hey, you never responded to my message, and she's my best friend now. So, and everybody's path is going to be different. Just don't lose sight of why you came. You have to do whatever you have to do. Don't look at somebody else and be worried about what they're doing. As long as you're focused on your path, you're going to get there and it's all going to be great. And just make sure to have fun with it. Not too much fun, like you can space out the fun, but definitely enjoy it, because that's part of the point of paying for college. If you're going to pay to go away to university and stay there, you might as well get the entire experience. Jeremy already kind of highlighted this, but just my future plans. I am pursuing a career in neurosurgery, as we said, graduating in the spring, and I'm applying to post-baccalaureate programs before I apply to medical school, just to kind of strengthen my GPA as a whole. I kind of checked every box except for like a fantastic GPA. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. But yeah, are there any questions? I'll stop sharing.
I want to be a neurosurgeon too.
Really?
Yes, like, so bad.
It's not like, everybody's
Okay,
like, it's not easy, but it's worth it at the end. The brain is the best part of the body, so.
Have you ever got, like, besides animals, have you ever got like hands-on experience?
So I did not ever, you mean like an actual human being?
Yes.
So I will say in high school, Harrisburg isn't far from Hershey and Hershey Medical Center. So I did this club there, and they would have a different theme. And one year happened to be neuro. And I think that's kind of how I stumbled upon being a neurosurgeon. But they gave us the chance to work with cadavers and like hold a real brain and spinal cord. I also had met at my job a surgeon that would let me shadow him. But because of COVID, I didn't get the chance to, which you can shadow somebody anytime at any point, as long as you get their permission and the paperwork. So it's not a huge loss, just hopefully COVID is over soon. As far as like getting in their brains, no, I haven't done that. I have, though, at my job also worked on the traumatic brain rehab unit. So I work with a lot of patients that are recovering from TBIs and doing their therapy.
Are there any certain hospitals that you have an idea of like working at?
Once I graduate med school. So after you graduate med school, you have to apply to residency programs. And it's honestly, with medicine, the whole application and trying to impress people thing never ends, because residencies is just another part of applying to a bunch of different things, seeing where you get in, seeing where you can go. But if it was up to me, I would love to go somewhere in New York, like Mount Sinai or something like that. But really, it's more about the location area. I don't know too much about hospitals, but I want to go to New York City, but I also have a lot of ties to going to Florida right now, so.
We have Renell's hand is up. Go ahead, Renell. And then we have
I wanted to be a neurosurgeon or cardiologist for the longest, but
my friend wanted to be a cardiologist, but then she had this eye issue. I don't know.
But then I was like, maybe that's not my cup of tea. But now that I'm watching The Residents, I don't know. Maybe I want to be it again. No, I want to be in the trauma section.
I think trauma is really fun. If I didn't like neurosurgery, I think trauma surgery.
Is trauma similar to general surgery?
You can never get bored.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's general surgery, just like on steroids in a way. You just have to be able to know how to do it super fast, and basically you get hit with everything. You're the first responder, and like say somebody has a traumatic brain injury, you have to stabilize them until the neurosurgeon can get there.
Isn't that all in the OR, right? Like, we're not in the operating, but like when you first walk in, right?
Yeah. The trauma bays are connected to the emergency room for sure.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Of course, I have my own questions, but I'm going to go through their questions first. So Nicoye asked, was it difficult to get back on track after being on academic probation, or was it like sudden motivation?
I would say it was definitely like, forgive my language, but a kick in the ass. I definitely like had to get myself together and fast, because if you can be on academic probation for 1 semester, I believe it is. After that, if you fail the next semester, they kick you out of college. And me being like my perfect high school student until senior year, I could not get kicked out of college. So I think if you stay focused, it's not hard to get back off track, because at that point my bar was so low, I just had to do a little better. But it's not easy. It's just, but you're motivated to do so if you care about being there.
And he also asked, did you risk losing your scholarship during that time?
I did lose my scholarship.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll follow up with that. When you got off of academic probation, was that scholarship reinstated or was it just gone? That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. You can get it back. You just have to maintain a 3.0, and to come back from academic probation from a 3.0 is a long road.
Yes, it is.
But
yeah.
I just made it back.
And that takes some time. I mean, and I don't think, students realize how far, it's like you can't go from a 1 or a 2. I mean, even a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a 3, that's a huge leap. So you don't realize, and especially in college, it's not as easy. I mean, not saying that high school is easy, but it's a big difference, because I mean, you're also dealing with, C minus, C plus, B minus.
The minuses get you, because you'll think you got a B minus and you did great. You didn't get 1 C, and a B minus is a 2.75 on Pitt's GPA scale. So it's definitely, it is a struggle.
Mm-hmm. So remember that when you all get to school, those minus and pluses make a difference.
One is the A minus, or the A to an A plus is both a 4.0. I don't even know why they're both there. So
yeah, they get you. Grades matter. Go ahead, Rena.
I can just imagine how hard it is. Like, not hard, but like difficult and challenging, because I have B and B now, is body and behavior. And it is very difficult for me. Like, I have to work really hard in order to earn my grade.
Yeah, it definitely is. They make you earn it, and they're not gonna hand you anything. There's been points where I was like, oh, please, emailing professors at the end of the semester, I just need 0.2 points to make it to Dean's list. Can you please? And no response. They just won't respond to you. Like, especially with us being virtual, no response.
And is Pitt's Dean list at 3.4 or is it a 3.5?
3.5.
Okay. So I wasn't sure.
What's the Dean list?
Honor
It's
roll.
kind of like honor roll for college.
See, everything got fancy names.
Say that again.
So everything got like fancy names.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then you think dean is just like the principal of college, but there's like 15.
You doing a dance school? What is it called in high school? Like, when you top of your school?
You were cutting out. I didn't hear that.
I said, what is it called? Like, when you're in high school and you're like a dean?
Honor roll. For me, it was honor roll and distinguished honor roll.
Yeah, you all have honor roll and high honor roll.
I was thinking of valedictorian.
Oh, valedictorians at the top of your class. They have valedictorians in college too.
You won't see me there, but we have them.
A lot more competition.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more competition. The other question is, did you prefer taking the SAT or the ACT?
I think just based off of high school curriculum, you're more prepared for the SAT just off the bat. But I was so determined to take this ACT. The ACT it's more, there's a science section and it's more writing focused, I believe.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering it correctly. It's
is
kind of hard at this point. Whenever people say it's hard to remember things back, I'm always like, I have a great memory, but now I guess I just turned 22. I feel old. Like, I can't remember back to high school.
Yeah, I definitely don't.
Yeah. I was about to say, that's old. Excuse me, while I jump out a window.
No,
I've got shoes that age. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Jordan, I'm trying to get through these questions because they have some good ones. Jordan said, what is the hardest thing to learn as a neurosurgeon?
I would say it's hard for me because my neuro classes are my most fun classes I've taken in college. Like once you get through all the gen ed requirements, then it can be fun. You actually enjoy what you're learning. I didn't get through it until like my junior year. I would say maybe just the basic sciences that, you think you take maybe an AP class or an honors class in high school of biology or chemistry, but it does not prepare you. I guess maybe organic chemistry was the most difficult for me because I still don't know. I'm studying for my MCAT right now and I have to go through all this again. I'm basically teaching myself it from the beginning. But other people that really grasp, they always say people grasp either one, like general chemistry or organic chemistry more. I think organic chemistry was harder for me.
Do you all know what the MCAT is? My future doctors.
No, what is that?
Is it?
Well, go ahead. What do you think it is?
Okay, I'm thinking of two things. It's either like a type of X-ray or a test.
So it's a test. You might be confusing it with an MRI.
Maybe.
Medical college admission test?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Trinity.
Well, she looked that up.
Helping me right now.
Nothing's wrong with looking it up.
Don't do that.
But yeah, it's kind of like SAT for med school, basically. 8 hours. So
when you're in when you make it to like a medical program and you're like at a hospital, isn't it an intern, a resident, and then an attending?
yeah, well, no. It depends what your specialty becomes. I know it's like I kind of base it off of what I see on Grey's Anatomy because they always have the interns first, and then which they do call your first year. Some of them call it like your intern year, others just call you first years. It doesn't really matter. But depending on what your specialty is, it'll be longer. Like I think for neurosurgeons, it's a 1 year or I'm trying to remember. I think it is either 1 year general surgery or 4 years general surgery residency, and then another year that's just neurosurgery, or I might be confusing the year specifically. But
I looked it up online in the summer when Miss Carla had us do this program, like, and it said, I know you're obligated to do 1 year general surgery, like to learn that.
Yeah. So there's definitely like a year of general surgery, and then I think neurosurgery is like a 5 to 7 year residency, and you can specialize after that. I don't know if you guys know who Ben Carson is. He was running for president at one point. I don't like to think of him in that light as a future neurosurgeon because he is a pediatric neurosurgeon, so he's famous for separating conjoined twins. And in order to do something like that, you would have to go through the whole 5 to 7 years neurosurgery residency and then specialize in pediatrics and things like that. So I consider doing that, but at some point it does get too long. Like for me, I can do the whole extra 5 to 7, but anything past that.
I see why like the best doctors are so old now.
I'm trying not to look that old when I get there, but we'll see.
I was thinking the same thing. Like you don't have to be like in your 30s, mid 30s, getting out of med school and fellowship and all that.
The older you get, the younger ages seem. Like 30 doesn't seem that old to me. So
it seems like when you're in your 30s, you're about to get old. So that's just prepping you. I think your 30s is your prep time to prepare yourself that you're about to be old.
Wow. From a 15-year-old, 16-year-old?
I just like to think of it as me being 22 right now, and a lot of people have kids. Now, no, I'm nowhere near ready to have a child, be responsible for something. I'm also selfish. I like being selfish. I like spending all my money on me. So, like, when I think of that, 30 doesn't seem that old.
It suck. I don't want them either.
I I mean,
Huh.
if you really are into not aging, just meet a plastic surgeon on your route to neurosurgery.
Michael asked, so in college, you can change your minor whenever you want.
You can change everything whenever you want. You
Yeah.
just have to be willing to stay as long as it'll take to finish it. College, I think people need to get away from the idea that it's 4 years. Sure, I'm graduating in 4 years, but I could easily, like if they had in their minds college is a 5-year program, I could easily stay till 5 years.
Yeah.
So college is not just like a set 4-year program at all. You can change things, you can add things, and stay as long as you pay.
And I mean, and I think because they want you to finish paying in 4 years. I mean, that's the most economic way to graduate. But a lot of schools now are saying that their programs can last up to 5 years because they don't want to put that undue stress on students to take, you know, the 5 or 6 classes per term. And it does add up. But yeah, the goal is to get out as soon as you can, because that extra, what, $50,000 in the 5th year is not, you know, not something you want to do. So
I'll add for like people that are considering going as a pre-med student or neurosurgery or whatever, is if you consider yourself like a strong high school student, like your GPA is good, you're a good student overall, look into programs that are linkage, which means you would do your undergraduate career, your college career, and you'd automatically gain acceptance into a med school.
Yeah.
I wish I knew about those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would just alleviate so much stress.
We just had somebody tell us that a couple months ago. We had a speaker in that, because I wasn't aware of it either. So that is something that you want to connect to. And I don't think Pitt has that program currently, but there are a few schools that guarantee admission into a medical school.
I know a girl that went to Pitt and she graduated early, and she was a pre-dental student and automatically was already accepted into University of Southern California for dental. And with my like high school record, I like that program would have been obtainable, but now it's like, I just wish.
And wait, you're not even old, as they said. So if that wasn't happening, what, 4 years ago, it's crazy that that wasn't widely introduced.
Yeah.
One of the last questions on here is I think Danielle's comment is, this is a realistic experience, to be honest. Is that what I think it's a comment.
Yeah, I would say. I tried to make it realistic. I didn't want to just give you all my highlights and make it cookie cutter. I wanted you guys to know that it's a difficult road, but like you can definitely get through it.
And I mean, I love your honesty and your transparency. I think that is so important. We have a lot of presenters, and especially this year, I think in previous year, we've had presenters come out and it's like, yeah, you can do anything you want. And, you know, it's like, I graduated, you know, with, you know, this GPA and I did this, and it was fine. You can do it, but not the real struggles. And I think they need to know it's not always a straight path, but I mean, you've excelled, you've overcome so much. I mean, I was listening to your activities and I'm like, what the heck? When do you have time? Do you sleep at all? You know, and I mean, when you were saying you had the opportunity to be, you know, in the emergency room and working with real patients, you know, that as, you know, undergrad is impressive, and the experience that, you know, not everyone is going to receive. So, you know, congratulations to you for your persistence and dedication. That's very admirable.
Thank you. And I was just gonna say, even though that job that, like I said, I got fired from and I was in the emergency room, I still put it on my resume.
Yeah.
And like, oh, was that like a 1-year student thing? And I was like, yeah.
And I mean, you know what, it's not lying on your resume, because it was 1 year, because it only lasted 1 year. I always say that as long as you can explain it, you know, and there's really nothing wrong saying it wasn't a fit for the hospital, it wasn't a fit for me. So when you get to an interview and they're talking about that and they want to reach back to, I'm sorry, I got a lifesaver in my mouth. and they want to reach back to that employer, you know, they understand it's like, I'm a full-time student, I'm volunteering in the community and all these other things that you're doing. It's like, it's unfortunate that we just didn't, you know, I wasn't able to continue with that particular job. We just agreed, you know, did not come to terms on, you know, we didn't, both parties did not agree, you know, that type of thing. So, I mean, especially it's 2020, people get fired all the time. It's really not a big deal anymore, you know. So it's more so it's good that you're looking at the experience and the opportunity that you receive, not the outcome, you know.
Yeah.
Trinity, you were saying something as well.
So you said earlier that you watch Grey's Anatomy and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I just watched it last night.
Do you ever have like, because this is how I feel like, well, not necessarily like if I do want, like I really want to be a neurosurgeon, so like that's what I'm like, I really want to be one. So like I feel like sometimes I kind of base what they do on a show and be like, oh well, that's how it's going to be when I go like to medical school or when I like be an intern at a hospital. Do you ever like base your life off like the show, or do you actually like stick to reality?
So I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say I haven't like looked at Derek Shepherd, aka McDreamy, and been like, oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing. But or Amelia, if you're watching it right now.
Amelia or Tom.
Yeah, he has COVID right now. But anyway, I definitely look to them, but I know I've been in the hospital environment enough, which I think is important to get experience in the hospital environment to know the difference. One thing that Grey's Anatomy always did that I don't understand is why surgeons are in charge of the hospital. Like surgeons do surgery, they get their patients in, out, they visit them for like 5 minutes. That's all they do. They're not concerned about organizing all the stuff like Richard does in the hospital, like building the hospital, as he says, I built this hospital. Like they don't do that. There are people now, because like some of them own the hospital now, yeah, they might be more involved, but really like moving patients, that's nurses and transport, and get like doctors do not spend that much time with patients, which is one thing I have an issue with, but they walk in, see their patient for maybe 5 minutes and have 70 others to go see. So it's not realistic in some ways. It would be nice if it was, but I will say I was watching the trauma scene last night, and like what they do in the moment is pretty realistic. Like, and the surgery part, like talking throughout it, laughing, whatever, like that's true too. But taking care of the entire hospital, not realistic. But yeah, I compare my life, I would say, and what I want to do, but I can pick out the stuff.
And UPMC, Jeff Romoff is their president. He has never been in a surgery. He's not a surgeon. He runs the hospital. That is it. He's not, you know, seeing patients. I think his background was at Western Psychiatric years and years ago, because we were funded by them. So of course we had to know who he was.
Well, he might run the hospital better if he did get in an operating room.
Maybe so. Yeah, but I don't think he's an MD. I don't even know if Jeff's a.
No, hospitals are a business at the end of the day.
Exactly. And he has expanded UPMC as a business, but not as a physician. I'm sure there's some, you know, other people down the line, but yeah, I don't know who their chief of surgery is, you know, at Presby or Shadyside.
Do not do that much. I mean, they run the department. That's it.
I've always thought that too. So I'm glad you brought that point up. It's like, it's not the same person. Let me get back to my office.
Can you be chief of your major also, like chief of neurosurgery or chief of general or like stuff like that?
Wait, say the beginning again.
Like chief of neurosurgery, like can't you do that, or like chief of cardio or something like that?
Well, I feel like the chief is mainly just like a promotion type of thing you would get to as you're at a hospital longer and more established in your career. But because you're chief doesn't necessarily mean you're the best of the best, in my opinion. It's just like a job title. Like if you say you're a neurosurgeon, being the chief would be a lot of paperwork, a lot less surgery, and if you want to do research, a lot less of that, because you're more concerned with administrative things. Something that I see a lot just from like a kind of nursing level standpoint, since that's what I work with a lot right now, is like there's charge nurse and there's clinician who's like in charge of all the nurses on the unit, and they're mainly in their offices doing paperwork, or the charge nurse has less patients because they have to organize the nurses and stuff. Like being in charge, while I want to be a doctor so I can kind of run the show in the aspect of one patient issue, is fun, but being in charge of administration is not something I'm interested in. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of like office things, not my cup of tea.
Any other questions? This has been great. What post-bac programs are you looking at?
So right now I just had this long conversation with my parents about this last night, but I'm looking at ones in Florida. So there's FIU, I'm looking at Pitt, they have one. There's a difference between, there's like post-bac programs that go towards your undergraduate GPA, and then there's post-bac programs that are called special master's programs, which go towards graduate GPA. So ideally I want to do a special master's program, but they're still competitive slightly. So I don't know if my undergraduate GPA will hinder me from doing well in that application process. So I have like the regular post-bacs as a backup, but mainly I'm looking at Pitt. Drexel is a really big contender. FIU, USF is one, and anything in New York. Like I said, I just want to be there. But my parents constantly tell me, how are you going to afford it? Which, yeah, I'll probably struggle a little bit or a lot. But right now, because of COVID, everything's cheap.
Good to know.
Yes. Like, I just feel like where there's a will, there's a way. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to get my own apartment and pay for it myself and all that stuff, but I did. So, I mean, I have a roommate, but
Still. Awesome.
it's like you rise to the occasion. That's what I think.
Exactly. Any other questions, guys? I'm sorry.
Do you mind if like sometimes if I have questions, can I email you or something?
Yeah, for sure. I'll put my email in the chat.
Yeah, we want you to come back.
I didn't mean to send that privately. Sorry.
We want to hear what happens next. We've had, when School to Career is in person and even virtual, some of our volunteers and our tutors have mentored our students with their homework, but they're pre-med students and they've gone through the process of applying for that post-bac program. And we've written several letters for med school and looked at personal statements and things like that. So we've had some students, some volunteers go through the process. So we definitely love to get an update, see how things are going for you, prior to graduation and even afterwards, because we do have two young ladies that are interested in pursuing that very same career. And it's rare to have someone here that it's hard to connect with, especially students right here in the city that our students can relate to, and to be able to ask these types of questions. It's very helpful to to have you here today. So
I definitely love to keep in touch. I really love being here. I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot. Miss Shardina called and like reminded me and everything, but then like presenting, it's easy because I was just talking about me, but nobody has ever asked me to just present about myself. So it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, Jeremy was doing the tracker. Like I said, he had his tracker spirit on, he was gonna track you down. So
I was this close to putting my ear to the ground and sending smoke signals. But no, thank you so much for your time and your earnestness and your honesty. It's been really, really wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, no.
And I think it's perfect. Would you say, Trinity?
I'm going to email her if I have any questions, because I can't think of them right now, but trust me, I'll have some soon.
And I'll reply. Even if it like seems like a week went by, I'm gonna reply. I always do. I just am really slow.
Okay.
And if you do, I recommend sending it before January 19th. That's when the semester starts and I have a full course load. So
Okay.
That's your last semester.
mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a busy time. Last semester, or is Pitt's next semester, spring semester shortened?
It ends. I don't know when it ends. I just know when I graduate, which is May 2nd. So
Okay.
The important things.
Exactly. And
Hey,
we didn't get to
put the
talk about
journal in.
BAS, but I know that's, a huge part. I didn't realize the commitment from the university for the Black Action Society. So congratulations with that as well. I mean, that's so important, especially this year. I mean, not especially, but this year, I'm sure you were a lot busier than in previous years.
Still busy. I'm just so glad I did not try to be president. My friend Morgan is our president, and like they try to recruit her for everything.
Yeah.
This girl, I don't know how she sleeps, and she's a neuroscience major too. So
Amazing. Yeah. So again, be careful, guys, when you all start signing up for clubs and organizations in school. When you get to college, it takes a lot of time. I know, right now everybody wants to be busier and wants to be engaged in different things, but it catches up with you.
another thing I learned is that people will take advantage of your time. Whenever you give availability, people are going to be like, oh, when are you available? Don't give it all. Allow some time for you to rest. Or like if you like to watch a show at 8 p.m., don't say that time is available. Like, be selfish with your time because people will definitely take it and run with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. And we're going to have to look for you on the hair color box. What's it called? Slack?
Flat, yeah. It's a red
Flat.
hair color. It's kind of false advertisement. I never once dyed my hair red, but that's just the
Well, yeah, and Cher doesn't really use all that conditioner. She wears a wig. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it was a wig. It was a bad wig too, but it looks good.
That's
Everybody,
hysterical.
could we have a microphones off and maybe cameras on? Big thank you for Ms. Taylor for her time and
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. You have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
holiday and enjoy your weekend. Have a wonderful holiday and keep in touch with us. We definitely like to know what's going on.
Thank you so much for having me. Jeremy, thank you for introducing me.
my pleasure.
It
Believe
was
me.
so fun to be here, and I enjoyed talking to you guys too. So email
Absolutely.
me if you have any questions. And
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.